So in this video, we are going to rank every villain based on how easy or hard they would be to face. Now I did make a video similar to this one where I ranked them based on their strength, but this one would be more aimed at the strategies and tactics those killers would take rather than just raw strength and power. And also, a few games have come out since then, so there's also a few new villains to go over. We are going to use 4 rankings to categorize each villain, with them being easy, moderate, difficult, and certain death. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. So coming in number 1 on our list is the Booty Creek Cheek Freak. So number 1, just to start off, alright, the only thing you have to do, the literal only thing you have to do is just to not miss the toilet. Alright, I've said this before, it's the most simple thing. Just plant your cheeks on the toilet and let it rip. That's all you gotta do. There's nothing else to it. If you mess up, that's on you. It's harder to spawn into Booty Creek Cheek Freak than it is to actually beat him, okay? And even if you do come across him somehow, if you do miss the toilet, all you need to do is just keep some air fresheners on you. That's all you need, just some air fresheners. Like we saw at the end of that game, all you need is some air fresheners, just freshen yourself up a little bit, and you're good. You're basically invincible. All right, so with that being said, Booty Creek Cheek Freak is going to be very, very easy to beat. Okay, so next on our list, we have Slaw. So just like the Booty Creek Cheek Freak, all you have to do is just something simple in order for him to not even come after you. In Slaw's case, all you have to do is just return your video rentals on time and everything will be all right. I'm not sure if that's the only way that you would be on Slaw's target list, but as far as I'm concerned, just return your video rentals and everything will be fine. I do remember in the game, one of the reporters or the detective said that the only people who've gone missing are people who haven't returned their video rentals on time. So if you just return your shit on time, he won't come after you. If he does come after you, I will not lie, it is probably very hard to escape Slaw. As we saw in that game, he pretty much puts you inside of a cage, and realistically, that's as far as it goes. You will probably be cooked and minced and chopped up and just die after that. But of course, for the sake of plot in our gameplay of Rewind or Die, we did make it out, but that probably won't happen to you, okay? You will probably end up in some bucket filled with various random meat that will be sold to someone and then eaten, and yeah, that'll be your life. I'm gonna give Slaw a moderate. So coming in next on our list is the East Ripper. So I'm not gonna lie, the East Ripper is one of the stronger villains on this list, okay? This guy is extremely tanky. He can freaking eat bullets from pistols and shotguns, as well as you can just stab him with fire pokers and he'll be fine. On top of that, this man also has extreme strength. Like, this guy can pick up Gary with one hand and just lift him off the ground. Keep in mind, Gary's a big dude, all right? This is a grown ass big dude, and here Tom is just picking him up, which is crazy. With that being said, I do want to say that he is very methodical about his movement. He's very slow. If you guys have played Murder House, you know how easy it is to escape the East Ripper. You just basically move super slow, which gives you a lot of time to just run from room to room and escape. So that's like really the only bad thing about the East Ripper that would make it easier for, I guess, us to escape from him IRL. Also, if you're with a full squad and don't play it dumb by separating all throughout the house like the crew did, then you'll be fine. I don't know why Tom and Dana and Gary all decided to just spread throughout the house. That is not something you should do, okay? If you guys just stick together, I promise you all of you guys will end up way better than they did. And yeah, basically I just wanted to close this off by saying all the other people in the crew died basically by having their guard down, facing the complete other way, just not even paying attention to shit. Motherfuckers would be way more attentive IRL being in a haunted house than they were, okay? If I was in a haunted house, bro, I ain't turning my back to shit, all right? If there's a dark ass hallway behind me, I'm looking everywhere. I don't get how Gary just let Tom walk up behind him, bro. I would have been. So yeah, realistically, if this was real life, none of us would be like having our guards down. We'd be very aware of what's going on. And I feel like all of the deaths that happened, you know, like Dana's death and Gary's death, could have been avoided had they just been paying attention more. But that's just me. So yeah. So we're gonna give the East Ripper, aka Tom, a moderate, because I feel like he's not too hard. Like I said, pause on that. Like I said, as long as you guys don't separate from each other like how they did in Murder House, I feel like you guys have a way higher chance to basically beat him. So next on our list is the Sniper Killer. I'm letting you know right now, with the Sniper Killer, you're basically cooked. There's no other way around it. There are 2 approaches, all right? The first one is everything is the same. You're just living your life, going about your day, and you're dead. Yup, you don't even have to be a bad person. You don't have to be associated or affiliated with anything. Literally, you just existing is prime targets for the sniper killer. I mean, we've seen so many random people, innocent people, just be murdered by the sniper killer for no reason because, well, he doesn't even know what he's doing, all right? You wouldn't have even seen it coming. You literally would have done nothing to deserve it. You would have just gotten your head sniped clean off because the sniper killer was told to, all right? That's the first approach. The other approach, outcome number 2, is more from an actual law enforcement standpoint. Like if you were a cop, forensic expert, or a detective like a martyr in our case. Sure, you might survive for a while, but slowly you would be consumed by the sniper killer's curse, and eventually it would be passed on to you. And at that point, you would have completely lost yourself, and that's basically a death in my eyes too. So either way, you're basically cooked in the world of sniper world if you were to face him. Like I said, there's 2 ways to go about it. You're just an innocent person going about your life like how you are now, and you get your head sniped off for no reason. Or you actually try to chase him and be a good guy, but you end up catching the curse and end up basically losing yourself and basically dying at that point. So either way, sniper killer is certain death. Next on our list is the Butcher from Stay Out of the House. Okay, so the Butcher is going to be a pretty difficult guy to beat. If this was IRL, you're not even making it past the cage, okay? That opening you see to get out, the one that our character uses, that's literally just for the sake of the plot and for our character to escape. Look at every other survivor in the game. They're tied up in cages and there's nothing they could do. That's more likely how it would be if that were to happen to us, okay? There wouldn't be any openings for us to, just break out of. No, the cage would be completely sealed and we'd be dead. If you did somehow escape the cage, there's a million cameras and traps on the ground that would capture you, and the Butcher knows the house infinitely better than you do, okay? This isn't a video game. All right, we're talking about IRL if this were to happen. You don't know any of the rooms. You were drugged and you just woke up in this random ass house with a bunch of doors being locked and cameras everywhere and bear traps. All right, you're not making it out alive. I'm sorry. All right, you're not him. You're not making it out alive. With that being said, the Butcher, again, certain death. Next on our list is the Womb Ripper. So the Womb Ripper has superhuman strength and can pick up grown men with one hand. We've seen him pick up, what's his name? Patron, whatever you say, however you say his name. That motherfucker got smoked, okay? There's nothing he could do, and there's nothing you could do if you get grabbed like that. Let's be honest. Not only that, but the Womb Ripper can also tank numerous bullets, as we saw at the end of the game, which is, I don't know about you guys, but 1 bullet should be enough to kill a human being. I don't know about goddamn 3, 4, 5. That's too much. What I will say that is good in our case is that the Womb Ripper can be temporarily stunned. That would actually be the best choice of action, to just sneak attack her or stun her and just run. She will come back to life, but at that point you'd be long gone and it'd be no longer your problem anymore. Just never go back to that area, never go back to that laundromat, whatever the case is, whatever. The Womb Ripper would be a very difficult villain to beat, but they can be hurt enough to where they're stunned, which gives you enough time to run away, which is exactly what happened to Sarah in Bloodwash. So I can totally see it happening in our case. It'd literally be 50-50 at that point. So I'm going to give the Womb Ripper a moderate. Coming up next on the list is the mysterious tall man from day 7. The only thing I will give the tall man is that he appears to be fast. Okay, that's really it. He doesn't really attack or do any harm to us physically, or at least the Terrence that we can see. He basically just lunges and runs at you, and that's pretty much it. So one thing I would like to know is that the game is wired to basically auto track you. So that's basically how the mysterious tall man knows exactly where you are. But in reality, it would be quite easy to juke the killer in the back rooms by running behind corners and crisscrossing your way through hallways and corridors. That's actually a method that I believe I saw in a MatPat video. I think when he talked about the back rooms and, realistically, if it's possible to escape the back rooms. Although I don't think it would, in our case, we would escape the back rooms. We can certainly evade the mysterious tall man by simply just, trying to throw him off and just running through different doors and trying to just basically break the line of sight as many times as possible. And yeah, with that being said, I do think it would be moderately easy to beat the mysterious tall man. So we're going to give it a moderate. And I give it a moderate because if you don't end up juking, then he will pretty much track you down because he's insanely fast and scary. And yeah, All right, so next up on our list is the Ding Dong Ditcher Ripper. So the first thing I would do in order to prevent all of this from even happening, you know, to prevent him from even pulling up to our house and breaking in, is to just lock all the doors and windows like they should already be. This is common knowledge, guys, okay? This isn't something I should be telling you, okay? You guys should be already locking your doors and, you know, at least closing your windows if you're not going to be there. Yeah, you should be good if you just close everything, okay? So yeah, with that being said, I know obviously he can and will break in. As we saw in the game, we heard some glass shatter. I'm not sure there's anything you can do at that point. Yeah, you'll hear a doorbell ring, but if you're a normal smart person, then you'll just check the peephole and be like, okay, I don't want that guy in my house, okay? He looks pretty scary. He looks like he's gonna kill me, and I'm not gonna open the door. All right, even if the Ding Dong Ditcher Ripper, whatever the fuck, pulls up to your house, then just do what Rex did and find a crazy goated hiding spot. All right, just hide somewhere. You know your house better than anyone. Think of your house right now. You know there's one goat hiding spot. All right, you got to go there. As long as you go into some crazy ass little room like how Rex did, you'll be all right. Just call the police and wait. I don't get why we had to, you know, I'm thinking about the game right now. I don't get why we had to just grab Rex and run back out. Like, bro, we could have just waited right there. We could have just waited at the closet inside that little hole, the little whatever cutout room that was, and just wait for the police to show up. They're going to show up, or at least do a standoff with him. And at that point, just stay there and you'll be all right. With that being said, I will say that it is somewhat easy to beat the Ding Dong Ditcher Ripper. He doesn't show any feats of supernatural abilities or anything like that. All that we know is that he's just a regular guy that likes ding dong ditching, all right? So he's not too crazy. I do feel like we can realistically beat him somewhat easily. Next up on the list is the Night Ripper. I'm not gonna lie, it would be very hard to face and escape from the Night Ripper, but it is certainly possible, like how we've seen with Rachel. If we're being realistic, you are not outrunning a car. In game, it's very easy to just keep running and lose the Ripper, but in real life, it would be way more difficult than just running through the street. If he tracks you, if he sees you, if his headlights or something, you're pretty much cooked. You're not outrunning a car like how we see in game. Also, being found in 3 different parts of the city is never good. That means you escaped, but not for long, and were found again. Any killer that is able to find you numerous times after you narrowly escape in a huge city is always capable of a lot worse, okay? Just like how we've seen in the Night Ripper, we move from area to area. We move from the city to the subways to the slums, and then back to, like, you know, some city area. Even after all that, he still finds us, which is crazy. And my final tip that I would like to add is that these days, it would be much easier to get into contact with Rhonda, our roommate. Night Ripper, I believe, takes place in the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken, or the 1990s, definitely pre-2000. Which is why there are phone booths and stuff. That was the only way we could have communicated to Rhonda. But these days, man, I would have just called Rhonda up, like, bitch, open that door. I'm coming through right now. There's a killer on my cheeks. We out. Like, that's what would have happened, all right? I would have called her immediately while I'm dipping, and I would have been like, hey, have that fucking door ready and open for me. I'm gonna burst through that shit, and we locking that shit behind me. And yeah, that's what would happen. So with that being said, I'm going to give the Night Ripper a difficult. All right, he's pretty hard to escape from. Next up on our list, we have Father Friedstein from Night at the Gates of Hell. So I know I shit on this guy pretty often for not being the most interesting or the most powerful, but compared to us regular humans, he is quite literally a god. Father Friedstein is able to open interdimensional portals as well as raise zombies from the ground at his will and seemingly infinitely. There's nothing we could really do against that. It's one thing to fight one, like, god entity, but if he's just gonna summon infinite zombies, man, there ain't nothing you can do, bro. He's actually paranormal and not even a normal person. Like, you would actually just be a regular person fighting a god, essentially. Realistically, there would be nothing you can do. You would literally just have to watch as the world gets taken over. Yeah, you might get a hold of some guns and stuff like that to fight some zombies, but you're not fighting Father Friedstein, all right? You're not fighting him. And he even spawns in that, like, huge monster alien thing. I can't even remember it, but, like, at the end of the game, when Stan takes you out, there's, like, that huge portal that opens, and it's, like, the skull that pops out. You ain't being that. You are not being that. All right? You's not winning, okay? That's certain death, okay? Father Friedstein is certain death. Next up on our list is the Driller Killer from both Night Watch and Power Drill Massacre. So first off, if you knowingly and voluntarily walk into an abandoned factory out in the middle of butt nowhere, you kinda deserve to die. Let's be real, okay? Let's be honest, let's not sugarcoat it. The Driller Killer is one of the fastest and most aggressive villains in the Puppet Combo universe. In both games, he charges at the player in a way not seen in other games and from other villains. It is literally one of a kind to see that man chase you. I remember the first time I played that game, I remember just watching him. I first remember the footsteps. The footsteps is what got me. And then I turned around and I just see him running full sprint at me, this tall ass fucking 6'8" man just running straight at you. Like, hell nah, bro. I'm giving you my cheeks at that point. I'm not even fighting, bro. Also, if we're basing it off in game, like how we see him, behave in game, he literally just pops out of nowhere. It's instant takedowns. Absolutely no time to prepare at all. You'll hear footsteps and 2 seconds later, boom, you're in a cage somewhere butt naked and you're cooked. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. You can't even prepare. If this is like how we're talking about in game, where you're just walking to an abandoned building, you're not even knowing if there's like a person in there, you're dead. You're literally dead. It takes 2 seconds for him to get a hold of you and you're cooked. So yeah, the Driller Killer, I know this goes without saying, certain death. So next on our list is Dylan from, what game is he from? Fucking, what was that game called? Deadly Night. There you go. Next up, we have Dylan from Deadly Night. Genuinely one of the first villains on this list so far where escape is near to impossible. His method of capture is pretty aggressive and leaves no time or room for a counterattack. As we've seen in game, basically our character Susan is walking out of the motel, I believe, to go talk back to Mr. Shiny because she found a camera in her bathroom. And then there's just a truck right there just waiting ominously. As you get closer to Mr. Shiny, he runs out of the van and pretty much chases you and captures you instantly. So there's nothing you can do. If this was IRL, it wouldn't be a moment of us just like looking at a white van being like, oh, what's that? What happens if I walk past it? No, the second you see that white van, Dylan would have been out of that shit chasing you immediately. And there would have been nothing you could do. That man is holding a sickle, for fuck's sake, all right? You're just walking home. What do you have? You have nothing. What, a little pocket knife? Maybe some mace? All right, maybe some mace, but have you seen his face? I don't think mace does anything to that man, okay? Let's be real. It would be extremely difficult to escape the house without being spotted once, due to just how small the house is. Also, he's almost as fast as the player and has no cooldown. Imagine that, a guy running that's capable of running just as fast as you, but never gets tired. Tell me how you're winning that. Tell me how you're winning that. Oh, actually, no. Comment down below, tell me how you're winning that. I need to read how you guys are beating him, okay? Pause on that. So yeah, with that being said, Dylan is getting a difficult rating. He would be very, very hard to escape. Next up on our list is Larry from Christmas Massacre. Now, Larry would be very hard to face, but escape is very possible. If you were somehow notified that you were going to come across Larry, or if he was in the area, all it would take is a phone call to the police and their backup would be enough to arrest Larry, like we've seen at the end of the game. I think there was like 2 or 3 cops. All they had to do was just get 2 guns on him. Just put some guns on him and he surrenders. That's it. If 2 to 3 cops were able to get Larry to surrender and be arrested, I'm sure an entire SWAT team would be more than capable to apprehend him and capture him. Now, despite that being said, if that doesn't happen, death is certainly on the horizon for you, my friend, as running away from him is actually not an option. Not only would Larry easily be able to catch up to you, but he can also throw kitchen knives long distances with absurdly high accuracy, okay? This guy has infinite amounts of knives. I don't know where he's pulling it out from. I don't know if it's on some GTA shit where he could just spawn shit from his back pocket, but he can throw shit as fast as light and with pinpoint accuracy straight at your back or at your head. Like, you can't escape from him. You can't. You're dead. Okay, escaping or beating Larry would be a very difficult task. Next up on our list is the Chainsaw Killer from the Buzzsaw Bloodhouse series. So it's hinted that it may be possible that the Chainsaw Killer himself is a part of the snuff film games that the girls are forced to play. He's huge, paws, and the only other human in the obstacle course. I remember very vividly one of the notes in game that basically says like how they're not even sure that the Chainsaw Killer even knows what he's doing and that they see him nothing more than an obstacle himself. He's basically an obstacle too. He's just as lethal and as damaging to our player as any of the other obstacle traps that we come across, which I think was a great analogy, a great way to put it. And it really gives you some insight into, I guess, you know, just why he's there, you know, and I guess, and why, in the sense that he may not even know why he's there. All right, he may have been captured by some other entity that we may not know of. Since there's no weapons or escape routes or basically anywhere to hide, survival is essentially zero, as in reality the Chainsaw Killer would eventually catch up to you and you wouldn't be able to escape forever, especially given the obstacle course nature of, you know, the Buzzsaw Bloodhouse games. At some point or another, you'll come across an obstacle that like you may have to stop at, and at that point, if you're not willing to take that risk and go across that obstacle course, then the Chainsaw Man will just catch up and just take your cheeks from behind you. So every path of escape is just another death game in which there's a chance you will die. The Chainsaw Killer, certain death if you come across him. Next up on our list, we have Killer Santa from Planet of the Bloodthirsty Santa. So first off, my number one tip, my number one advice to beat Santa is to just, I don't know, don't go to space and you'll be all right. In the context of Planet of the Bloodthirsty Santa, I believe the crew had to go to space and had to go to Planet Santa in order to find certain rare minerals or something like that. They're a mineral mining crew or something. So I understand why they needed to go to, you know, Planet Santa to find these gems or whatever, but us normal people here on Earth, there'd be no reason for us, you know, for our human asses to be anywhere else other than Earth. Okay, as long as we stay on Earth, that motherfucker could stay all the way in his planet, hundreds of light years away. But if you were in space and on Planet Santa, just get to an open field and run. Okay, Planet Santa looks to be a pretty open area. There's some buildings and some festive, you know, decorations that possibly belong to previous elves, but other than that, it's a barren wasteland filled with just snow. There is that castle section, but we're not talking about that section. We're talking about the section before. As long as you have an open field, I can't see you genuinely running away long enough to where you can just escape the Killer Santa. He doesn't seem to be the fastest out of other villains that we've covered so far. He actually seems on the bigger side, so he's carrying a large axe. Might be a little bit harder for him to get to you, but as long as you have an open space, like how we kind of have had an open space in the game, he basically can't get to you. So I will give Santa moderate. So next up on our list is Neokalus Burr from Babysitter Bloodbath. So Neokalus Burr, I'm gonna kind of compare him to the Driller Killer because they're both very similar when it comes to not only their builds, but also their way of attacking. Neokalus Burr is a 6'4", 240-pound man. Unless you're within that range of height and weight, all right, that's not looking too good for you, all right, if he starts chasing you. Now, the only difference with Neokalus Burr and the Driller Killer is that at least with Neokalus Burr, you are in your home, or at least inside of a home. With the Driller Killer, we already spoke about how, you know, it would be very hard to escape, and partly due because you're in an abandoned building, dark as hell, only a flashlight, and the Driller Killer knows the whole fucking layout, right? But in this case, in our case, with Neokalus Burr, you know, I guess if we're sticking true to the story and to the game, let's say, okay, right, you live in a house and like 10 years before he used to live, so he kind of knows the layout too. At least here we're on an equal level, okay? Everyone knows what the house layout is. You know it, he knows it. So there isn't a disadvantage on your end. So Neokalus Burr uses a kitchen knife to basically attack his victims, and unless you are also, you know, pretty tall and way around the same height, and you too also have a weapon, then there may be something there. There may be a little fight there. I don't know. It's 50-50. You know, it could be. You don't even have to be 6'4". Hey, if you got, you know, a knife yourself, you could just, you know, poke him and just like, yeah, you know, like, and I know I don't want to harp on the weapon aspect too much because right at the end of the day, right, we could just, for all of these killers, we could just say, okay, just pull out a fucking MP5 and just shoot them down, right? That could be like a solution for all these killers. So let's not focus too much on like the actual weapon aspect of it. If you were to have a weapon, he has to have his weapon, all right? That's part of his thing. But like for us, I just feel like since we're in a home and we're very aware of our home, we can escape. Like we can escape. There's multiple windows in our house. There's at least one door, all right? Some of your guys' homes might have a back door, you know? So at least there's multiple ways to exit the house, whether that be through windows in each of the rooms, or, you know, through the front door, whatever the case might be, there is a very real chance you could escape without him ever even like catching you. I just feel like Neokalus Burr, he would be hard, don't get me wrong. Wait, pause on it. It would be very difficult to fight him, but it wouldn't be nearly as difficult as his counterpart, which I believe is the Driller Killer. They're both very similar. They look the same too. I'm pretty sure they're like modeled off the same, you know, mesh or whatever. But yeah, I just feel like he's a little bit easier to face. Still, again, pretty scary. Not the fastest. Fast, sure, but not as fast as like, you know, Mysterious Tall Man and Driller Killer and all that. Pretty fast, but not that fast. And again, not paranormal, not anything out of the ordinary. Just a regular tall guy that's, you know, just on he's on something. I don't know what he's on. I don't know. Something's wrong with his mental, right? So I feel like Neokalus Burr, we can actually kind of escape the house. So I'm gonna give it a moderate. Next up on our list, we have Nun from Nun Massacre. So not much needs to be said about surviving against a paranormal teleporting nun. Conventional means of damaging her only leads to temporary safety, so even if you do end up stunning her, it won't last long and she will get back up and chase you. Unless you study witchcraft and somehow have all of the supplies on hand to perform an exorcism, she literally can't die by normal means. And you are quite literally fighting against a ghost, except this ghost can actually physically harm you. Now, I've spoken about the power and just the raw strength of the nun numerous times. I know this isn't new to any of you guys, that it would be certain death to face the nun. As I mentioned, not only can she teleport anywhere, she's also basically invincible. You can't hurt her. Even if you do hurt her somehow, it's only just a stun. She only runs away for a bit, and guess what? She's back on the map, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you perform an exorcism, to which I said again, unless you have all of the supplies needed and you study witchcraft, there's basically nothing you can do. So the nun is certain death, unfortunately. So nearing the end of the list, we have Dr. Edward Sulivan from the Glass Staircase. Now, of course, Dr. Edward Sulivan is a very strong and powerful monster, but turning into that creature also cost him a lot of speed. Enough of which to the point where a little girl could run laps around and never be caught. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that he will never capture you if you play your cards right. We've literally seen Margaret run in circles, and Dr. Edward Sulivan was never able to capture her. As long as you do the same method, that guy is way too big and way too slow to like realistically catch you if you're running like from room to room and shit like that. Now, I will admit, he does have an aggro mode which makes him faster, but he's just way too big for his own good. Imagine going through doors. He wouldn't even fit. And yeah, sure, he might be able to break them down, but at that point, he's wasting so much energy and even more time while the victim's just running away. So I can't see how it isn't possible for us to escape. I'm not saying it would be easy, but I'm also not saying it would be terribly hard. I'm going to give Dr. Edward Sulivan a moderate rating when it comes to our ability to actually face him and beat him. And I would like to say beat does not mean literally and physically, you know, defeating the killer. I mean in the sense that we still end up alive somehow, whatever that means. If we end up taking them down or we end up escaping, whatever that means, as long as we're alive, I consider that a W for us and a fighting chance for us. Next up on the list, we have the Mutilator. So the Meat Cleaver Mutilator is just like Neokalus Burr and the Womb Ripper, except he drugs victims and brings them to his abandoned buildings, stripping them of their sense of security and familiarness. He can be defeated by regular conventional means, but it would be a difficult task and will take time and strength. But like I said, escape is certainly possible, but would be very difficult. That first part would really be the hardest part to face, you know, just the fact of you waking up in a place you have no idea about and you don't know anything. It'd be pretty hard to not only escape, but also just like, you know, just move your way around that house. As long as you can find a weapon inside the abandoned house somewhere, or even just hide for long periods of time, I do think it would be possible to escape. But like I said, since you just woke up there and you're not familiar with your entire surrounding, it would be extremely hard to just escape. So I would give the Mutilator a difficult rating. Next up on our list, we have the Cannibal Killer from Cannibal Abduction. So this guy is pretty easy, I'm not gonna lie. He's extremely slow. I'm not sure if they updated the game or anything, but last time I played, that guy walks at like snail pace. Like literally he walks as fast as Gary does in SpongeBob. This guy is not fast at all. He's actually insanely slow. Arguably the slowest killer on this list. Basically, my entire viewpoint about this guy is that he has no athleticism. He's very slow. He doesn't run. He doesn't chase you or anything. I can't see how we can escape him or even take him down ourselves. He basically walks like an old guy. The Cannibal Killer would be a very easy villain to escape from, without a doubt. Last on our list, we have Billy from Feed Me Billy. So Billy, I would say, is a somewhat difficult villain to escape from. Now, you don't even have to necessarily do anything wrong. You could literally just be living your life and you'll be targeted by Billy, which we've seen many times in the game. We've even seen people at parties just minding their own business and they get snuffed out by Billy. Now, Billy, I would say, is a somewhat difficult villain to escape from. He doesn't really have any reason to target anyone specifically. He pretty much goes after anyone because he needs their body to feed to the hole in his closet. As far as being targeted, there's really nothing you can do or really influence. It's really a matter of probability and chance at that point if Billy comes after you. For whatever reason, if you do somehow know Billy is going to come after you or like come to your area, you know, let's say you're at a party or something, you just knew he was going to pull up, then I guess the best thing would be to just call the police or something like that. I don't know. I don't think you could escape this guy. Like, you just wouldn't see it coming. You just wouldn't see it coming. With that being said, he does only have a pistol, so if you can somehow disarm Billy, let's say you had a group of people and you all saw him and y'all just like decided to jump him, yeah, a few people might die, but I do feel like you could take that gun away from him. And if you take the gun away from Billy, he's basically a regular guy. There's nothing special about him. If you get a few guys, you can totally beat Billy up. Yeah, all the power in Billy is literally just his pistol. So if he doesn't have the pistol, he doesn't have anything. With that being said, he's still a pretty difficult villain to escape from. So I will give him a moderate. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I went through all of the villains. There might be one or two, but maybe I didn't go over them because I didn't think it was worth it to go over them because it was, I don't know, dumb or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'd like to mention again that this isn't really based on their raw strength and power. I know I did mention how some villains have, you know, pretty tanky builds and can take some bullets or even, you know, pick up people with one hand or whatever. But what this was more aimed at is the strategies and basically how realistic and what are the probabilities of us being able to realistically beat these killers. And again, I would like to mention, I don't think of the term beat as in quite literally defeating them and killing them. I mean in the sense that if it's possible, if it, you know, for us to run away or stun them or whatever fighting chance we have, if that's in the realm of possibility, then I will count that. And that's something I will, you know, highlight. So hopefully I highlighted enough strengthnesses. Is that a word? I don't even know. Hopefully I highlighted enough of that as well as weaknesses to, you know, where you can make a guess yourself, you know, kind of put yourself in that scenario and be like, you know, is it realistic for me to escape? You know, maybe you can run fast. Maybe you guys are good at fighting. I don't know, but either way, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. There's more of a random video, I know, and more of a yap type of video. I usually have scripts for these videos, but I don't know. I just felt like kind of just freestyling this one as I do with some other videos. So if you like the freestyle nature, hopefully you guys like this and I'll continue doing them. But don't worry, I got more ideas. I know I keep saying that I never upload, but I got you guys. Don't worry, I got you guys this time for real. Without that being said, I mean, that's going to be it for the end of the video. And thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Peace out.